order with the pledge.
I told him, I said,
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
this is the second time today I've done this.
So now we'll do roll call. Harold Bain, absent. Whitey Simon.
Here.
Mark Bouchard.
Here.
Chris Hiltunen.
Here.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Robert Muesling here. Wayne Torno.
Here.
Margie Ferris.
Here.
And Kathy Schweikart is absent. Next would be approval or amendments to the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Roll call. Whitey Simon.
Yes.
Harold Bain is absent. Mark Bouchard.
Here.
Yes.
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 Oh, yes.
Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Yes.
Margie Ferris.
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikart is absent. Next on the agenda would be approval of minutes from the August 27th meeting.
Make motion to approve the minutes from the August 7th meeting.
My second.
Roll call is Whitey Simon.
Abstain, I wasn't there.
Harold Bain is absent. Mark Bouchard.
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Abstain, I wasn't there.
And Margie Ferris.
Yes.
And so, motion passes. Next is new business, which is review of 6A would be review of ordinance number 126, section 3.21 on recreational animals. We got a letter.
You got it?
Roman Garriga saying, requesting that we look at section 3.21 recreational animals to be reviewed. He said that he believes the language is archaic and that it ought to be updated. And so section 3.2 recreational animals, one is the parcel on which the animals are located is not within a recorded plat excluding assessors or supervisors plats, or supervisor plats. So I don't know much about it. I don't know if Karen, if you do.
So in your ordinance, you have a list of regulations if you want to keep like horses or recreational, like hobby animals, and you have meet all these size requirements, setbacks, I'd say things that are reasonable, but then there is this stipulation where you can't be a parcel that's in a recorded plat. And I guess the issue is, sometimes pieces of land have baggage that are attached to them based on how they were maybe originally developed. And, there may have been a situation where parcel was in, could be eligible size-wise, but for whatever reason, maybe 50 years ago, it was part of a recorded plat, thinking maybe this will one day be a big residential subdivision, and that never came to be for whatever reason. Maybe there was wetlands or whatever. So the parcel may remain rural, maybe it's pretty sparse, it's eligible otherwise, except it's just part of this recorded plat. And I agree with him that I do think having this one stipulation that could prevent someone from doing this is a bit, it is archaic and a bit, if the intent of ever having this to be developed as a dense subdivision where this would be a conflict, that probably would have already happened at this point. But the way the land has developed, it hasn't. But being a part of that plat is tied to it historically. And it can be, not that it can't be undone, but it can be a lot of time with the county arguing how you don't want to be a plat anymore and registering it differently. So, and we don't really require this of most other kind of uses in general. Typically when we were getting into plats and stuff, we're talking about how something can be developed further. So I am in agreement with the code enforcement officer. I think this is language that possibly should be looked at and see if we want to modify it. At the moment, I can't think of any other instance where just having a use within a recorded plat, that's not really anywhere else in your ordinance for any other kind of use. And it's pretty uncommon for other communities to have that kind of language tied to this kind of use or any particular sort of hobby use. So
How did this come about, Karen, do you know?
there was an instance where it was, I think there was someone was keeping animals, and it turned out that property was a part of this recorded plat.
So somebody complained.
I believe someone complained.
Would the thought be that to remove this language?
I'd say examine it, because we don't require any other use to be not within a recorded plat. We don't ask that for particular industrial uses or any kind of other hobby uses. And, I guess the thinking is, everyone can look at their properties. We have, all different kinds of properties within Clay Township, and just how they've been historically divided up, that will follow that piece of property, It's a plat on paper at this point, that's it. And so if the intention of that property in that area is to never be developed into a density thing, and you already have all these requirements for setbacks to prevent there being a nuisance in the first place, the stipulation of, because your keeping of animals, it's going to be in a residential area, that's allowed as a permitted use. So to have this specific tie to how it's designated on a piece of paper, based on how the land was divided or intended to be divided 50 years ago, that might be something that we want to examine and maybe see, because I looked everywhere else in your ordinance and I couldn't find any other regulations for uses where, you can't do this if it's part of a plat.
Is there any other townships or cities that have anything that would be similar to where if it's tied to a plat, that maybe no livestock or
Not that I've seen.
no hobby farms or?
Not that I've seen. Typically, there's a size. Do you want you to be of a
Right.
substantial size? And you have to have setbacks. You have to follow GAMPs. Regular farming regulations for the most part. But a lot it's hard because in St. Clair County, there's been projected historically, maybe like in the 70s, 80s, there was going to be substantial dense growth. And some of that did happen, but in a lot of areas it didn't. But land may have been bought and kind of sliced and diced, intending maybe this will be a subdivision with, 100 houses or so, and that just never happened. But there's this historical legal baggage that's tied to that piece of property now. And to have language that could prevent a parcel that would otherwise be suitable, except it just has this historic plat that suddenly now you have to kind of go to court and try to undo to do this, when you don't really call that for any other use. It is a little prohibitive, I think. And I haven't seen it anywhere else in any other community for something like this.
Karen, can you define plat for me?
Sure, so a plat is kind of like how they used to divide, so you have the Subdivision Act, and in order to create individual parcels, it gets platted.
Okay.
So that's how it goes. Nowadays, the way things are divided, most people follow the Condominium Act. You're still getting individual parcels, but they aren't platted anymore. And so it's just kind of the legal way we've defined individual pieces of land.
Okay.
Yeah.
But by now, we should be totally platted around here. Yes?
Possibly. If it's come up once, and I imagine, like you said, you're probably all platted, so how in the future or currently are other properties possibly in conflict with just this plat issue, you know? I don't know. But it came up once in an instance, and it was just discovered through
Somebody wanted an animal someplace,
or someone didn't want an animal.
or didn't.
Yeah, someone didn't want an animal there anymore, possibly, and so they did a little digging on the property, and they found, oh, it's part of this recorded plat. So, yeah.
So this is referencing recreation animal, not commercial.
Right, yeah, hobby animals, recreational animals that would be on at your residence.
What's the downside of just getting rid of that language?
I can't think of any other than that's just a non-issue anymore when we're looking at these hobby farms.
So would it be appropriate for you to investigate a little bit more and then come back at the
Yeah.
next meeting and give us a recommendation of what the language should look like, or
Yes,
maybe be omitted?
yes.
Okay.
So you're saying platting is...
You can have your
is
chickens.
obsolete.
Sorry, Mark?
Platting is obsolete.
It's not, it's just, it still happens, but not as much.
From my understanding,
money.
to do a subdivision through platting it out takes 2 years plus, where through the condominiums, for detached condos, they can do it within a year. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fiscally, most opt to go with
They've shown you what they
detached
really
condos.
want, rather than.
Yeah.
So I guess I would make a motion to table this until next meeting so the planner can come back with a recommendation for a
Second.
adjustment.
Cool.
So, roll call, Harold Bain is absent. Whitey Simon.
Yes.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Robert Muesling, yes. Mark Bouchard.
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Wayne Torno.
Yes.
Margie Ferris.
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikart is absent.
Now, just a comment, I think it would be handy if Roman would tell us what drove all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary, do you have any insight on?
Yeah, it was, as she described, it's a big piece of property that could house horses. I believe it was horses on the property. And the neighbor complained.
Doesn't like
And
horses.
it was a platted piece of property, and because it's platted, they couldn't house those horses. And so that's what's at issue. Plenty of property. That property will never be sold off to be platted into individual subdivisions, sublotted, nothing. So that was the reason.
Okay.
Mark can guess on that.
And then, so it'll be tabled till the next meeting. Second item in new business is review of ordinance number 126, section 3.01 for the accessory building structures and uses, which I know we've went over this quite a few times.
Yeah, I guess CBA has requested us to reconsider the planning commission's inaction to increase accessory building height. So they're asking us to revisit it, and I'll give the mic over to Gary so he can better explain the situation and what he would recommend.
Yeah, ZBA is asking for primarily an increase in the height. Karen has done studies of areas around us, and it goes from 14 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet even. And what they're concerned with is, yes, we've had a lot of cases come before the ZBA for height variances. And he's trying to lower some of those requests. Whether or not this will meet his needs, I'm not sure. But we can admit that we have bigger, taller trucks that don't necessarily fit into a garage that maybe this 15-foot mean height was meant to be. I'm under the guys that says you can make a big truck fit into a 15-foot mean height, but if we raised it to 16 or 17 foot on a mean height, it would still meet the aesthetics of a neighborhood. It wouldn't be overpowering. So I would be in agreement to do that. I don't think 16 feet would be enough. I don't see any of the variances that come across that are just asking for 1 foot in the mean height. And 17 is getting kind of close, but at least then we can get maybe the people to say, kick it down a little bit, get yourself within that mean. And then I think we can probably work with that. I still don't want to budge on second floors on a garage. I think I've been very liberal in that, in saying that the second floor, in my definition, comes when we get into the building code. And the building code says, what is the definition of a second floor? Well, second floor, minimum height of a second floor is 7 feet. If you have 7 foot, that's a habitable space. So when we talk about especially properties around the water, and that's where we really have the problem of limited storage, no basements, people are always looking for storage. So if we keep storage areas above garages to be under 7 feet, then they can't be habitable. So that takes care of that. So what's the definition of an attic? You can look at it in a definition and it's anywhere 4, 5, 6. There's no real answer to that. So I've taken it one step further and said, as long as we keep it under what's habitable, and that's under 7 foot, then they can't make it into a living space. And that's really what we're trying to protect, perhaps, is our R1s, our residential properties, making sure that we have just storage over that, and that's what their purpose is. So, to make sure that we keep intact, single story on our accessory structures, I think is still important, and we can still raise the mean height and still keep our single story intact. So I wouldn't be objecting if you were looking to maybe raise that to 16 or 17 foot on a mean. It would allow for the bigger trucks to get in there, 9-foot doors, maybe even 10-foot doors, where they could get bigger vehicles into their garages.
So there is the ability to meet higher requirements by moving off the lot line, correct?
Yes.
So it's not, so these are mainly, honestly, these are mainly boathouses, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about.
No, but, they are usually associated with the water, and not around, not necessarily boathouses, but most of our smaller lots are associated with waterfront properties. When we get out, out and away into our more rural properties where we have property to work with, where we can get farther away from the property line, we never go to the ZBA for those, because we always work with that 3.24, which we also hope to put the wording right into 3.01 also, to get that verbiage right into 3.01, so that people know that, yeah, move it over a couple of feet, and you get to go up one more foot. And those are very beneficial to the properties that are away from the water. But most of our water lots are tight. They don't have that option to move over a couple more feet.
Right.
They just don't have the property for that.
Any discussion from Karen?
There's some other language in that ordinance 3.01 that I'd like to clean up, but this is just a discussion today. But that's the biggie, the other language corrections that we'd like to make. I think we can come back to you on those, but.
So would the thought process be, Gary, that you would get with ZBA, or you would make a recommendation back, what you think the language should look like?
Well, yes, I mean, me and Karen together can work that language out, but it's really up to the board. If you want to entertain it, is totally up to you. Like I say, personally, I think 15 feet is workable. And if I'll say it, if we want to throw the ZBA a bone and say, we can raise it up a little bit, maybe ease the number of cases that come before you, to achieve that on these waterfront or these smaller lots. And that's usually where we find it. Although, it's not just waterfront. Even, the streets behind us here at Township Hall, they're smaller lots. They just don't have the space to be able to move over 2 feet. It's not till we get into the larger rural lots that we're opted, to have that benefit to move it over to get greater heights.
Do we know how many times this comes in front of the ZBA a year?
I could research that for you, but most
Is
of
it-
those are going to be boathouses, for sure. But
Well,
yeah,
I mean, is it like one or two a year? or
No,
is
it's
it
every
No,
like every meeting?
it's more than that.
Okay.
It's more than that, and I'll tell you that it's more than 17 feet that they're asking for too, and we're not going to get, and nor would I want you to go taller than that by any means. We got to get to a point where we got to put a control on it. We got to just say, come on, you got to get it within reason. I mean, we do have a couple of streets that are just out of control. We got Colony, of course, that they're building Taj Mahal's over there. We got Anchor Bay Drive that they're just small postage stamps on the canal sides that they got no room to do anything, and they want to build up. They want to build it as big as they can, and most of them are all have upper storage, and if not, go into the ZBA and got second floors. So that's where we're getting a lot of ZBA action from, is those two streets.
So even if the move is made that you change this, let's just say to 17 feet, you're still going to get those cases from those places that want to be 20 feet, and they're still going to come to the ZBA. So what are we really saving by making a modification for 1 to 2 feet? If I don't want to call them problems, but if the main issues are going to be, because I see them when they come across from ZBA, it's boathouses. I see them because I go on the water. I see the boathouses that are bigger than most homes in the area. And those people are still going to come to Z, because they're not going to say, well, 17 feet, cool, I'll just stick within 17 feet. They'll be like, yeah, no, he's got 21 feet, I want 22.
Right.
So those are still going to come. So I guess
Yes.
I don't know why spin the wheels. Is it just for the 2 or 3 guys that are off of the water that want a garage? Maybe they still come to ZBA. I mean, I don't want to say that ZBA should look at every case like that, but it's not going to solve the problem, because unless this is passed and then ZBA says we're not going to differ from that, but that's not going to happen, because every case that comes in front of them, they say, well, the neighbor did it, so we're going to let them do it. Historically, it's been done, so we're going to let them do it. So I guess personally, I don't see a reason to change it and then just still have the same amount of cases.
You make a good point, Chris, I agree with you on that.
I mean,
Well-
Yeah.
is there a height that most of them are going for, or is it? this-
15.
Well, that they're going for infinity.
Yeah.
No,
Kevin.
I mean, because obviously some of the houses that are being built are taller, bigger, everything that they're building, they want larger, so is there something that, I mean, if we look at this, would 17 feet be sufficient, or do we realistically need to look at 18 feet, or a little bit
Then
higher?
they want
Or is it-
21, and then you get 20, and then they want 24, and then you get 24, and they want
Correct.
32.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we would try to go anywhere near what, because like you said, they'd give an inch, they'd want more. But yeah, I would just be looking out to say, okay, just the guy that wants to put his SUV inside of his garage that he just can't fit in now. That's what I would say, maybe we can help them out. That doesn't have a big lot. The boathouses, those, yes, they're going to the ZBA no matter what, because 16, 17 feet isn't going to get them what they want anyways. And they're going to go to the ZBA, and then it's ZBA's decision on whether or not they'll approve it or not. Kind of know the answer. But yeah, maybe just the guy in behind us here that has the smaller lot that wants to put his truck in his garage, maybe just to work on it, who knows what, but maybe that would be the only reason.
But then we have to take into consideration, what are we doing to the neighbors in the neighborhood at that point if we're going to allow that? Because honestly, on the water, you see that they're all getting bigger, so the people that have been there forever have smaller homes, they're, just waiting to leave and tear them down and go bigger again there, and I just don't know what it would do with these smaller residential lots if you start putting bigger structures in, at some point, then they all start getting bigger and crowded. I don't know, it's just, it's my personal feeling on it.
Well, I can sort of agree. I unfortunately got the email that sent me the minutes of the 2 October meetings. And I agreed with you when you indicated also that too many of them want to build it high enough so that they can build living quarters upstairs. And I've been in many of those, and they should not be there. And so when I looked at the report that we got, we are at 15 feet. Most of them are 14 to 16 in this entire neighborhood, and there are a couple of them at 20 feet. There weren't any at 17 feet at all. And I think we, at least I, have gone through this discussion a number of times, and you probably know that ZBA has come back time and time again that we need height increased. But if you go around and look at some of the places, and next door to me, I have a ranch which put in a second story. The second story floor is on top of the roof of the building, so it's way above mine. It doesn't bother me, but openly to allow everybody to go 17 feet or 18 feet, I don't think would help us much, and it wouldn't help the zoning board either, because they'd come for another 2 feet. And ours is not unreasonable to have 15 feet if you have 8.5 feet for the bottom part. The top should give you sufficient space to that. And I believe during the meeting in October, one young gentleman indicated that when he tried to get a variance, it wasn't granted, and now everybody gets it, and he couldn't build what he wanted to do. So we need consistency
Correct. I agree.
in everything that comes in and out of us. And that's why I say I don't know whether we really need to go. We can look at it some more, but I don't personally think we need to go above 15 feet.
public comments are down.
Public hearing, can you talk on this issue?
Public comments.
should, I'll wait till the public
No, public hearing, I want to talk about this issue.
This isn't a public hearing.
Oh, this isn't a public hearing? Oh, okay.
No.
Sorry about that.
So, yeah, whatever you decide, there's still some language in 3.01 that I think we would like to clean up. Like I say, add 3.24, the language of 3.24 within 3.01. That way it makes it easier for when we're handing out the handouts for 3.01. So people know about that 2-for-1 exemption, height exemption in there. Because otherwise, they don't know about it. That, and then we've got some language at the end in 1/6 of that same ordinance that needs to be cleaned up a bit. So, yeah, whatever you decide, but we would like to clean up 3.01 also, though.
Karen, do you know what language at the end that Gary's talking about that needs to be cleaned up?
Yes, I know what language that is. So at the end of it, of 3.01, we have an ordinance 3.16, it's outdoor storage. So we opened up in outdoor storage to allow for shipping containers to be used as sheds, as long as they had pitched roofs, as long as they had a facade that looked like residential sheds. So non-metallic, siding, pitched roofs, that sort of thing. But in 301.16, it states that no person shall place or cause to be placed or use or permit the use of any shipping container as an accessory building or storage building or accessory living unit or residentially zoned or other zoned land where residential uses are established, except as provided herein. So so that's a conflict. That portion of the use of any shipping container as an accessory building or storage is a conflict with 3.16 for outdoor storage. So I would just like to have that portion of 3.16 to be eliminated, the shipping container to be used as an accessory building or storage, to have that taken out, and still keep in for the residential uses, which I know that there is a push maybe to have some shipping containers as living quarters at some point in time, but it still could be in here as not really allowed at this point, but it is an ordinance that if it ever became something that it could be entertained through the ZBA.
Planning Commission, how would we like to move on with this?
Gary, would you work with Karen and bring back the suggested modifications to the language, and then, I guess.
Okay,
I don't know
keep
what
it at 15
I
feet?
don't know what everybody's feeling is. My feeling is keep it at 15 feet, but.
You making a motion, Chris?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for Gary to work with Karen to bring back the language change that they would like and maintain the 15-foot
Second.
height.
Okay, roll call. Harold is absent. Whitey Simon.
Yes.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Robert Muesling, yes. Mark Bouchard,
Yes.
Chris Otunin,
Yes.
Wayne Torno,
Yes.
Margie Ferris,
No.
and Kathy Schweikart is absent. Motion passes. And then the final new business is for the 2026 meeting dates. I'll read, I'll read the dates, and so they're in the record. So the following meeting dates for 2026 are January 28th, February 25th, March 25th, April 22nd, May 27th, June 24th, July 22nd, August 26th, September 23rd, October 28th, November 18th, and December 2nd. Any discussion?
Oh, I would move that we accept those dates.
Support.
Roll call, Harold Bain is absent. Whitey Simon.
Aye.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Robert Muesling, yes. Mark Bouchard.
Yes.
Chris Otunin.
Yes.
Wayne Torno.
Yes.
Margie Ferris.
Yes.
Kathy Schweikart is absent. There is no unfinished business. Oh, 6D is building official discussion, miscellaneous items. Gary?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening to me. I know you don't have anything before you, and I have been so absolutely busy. But there was a couple of things, and I don't know if I have to get approval from the township trustees before, but I want to let you know a couple of concerns that I have. One is we have section 3.11, which is our straight line setbacks. And in this straight line setback, which I know you're all well aware of, it was, a whole idea was to line everybody up on the water. And this was for boatable waterways. So that everybody, even though Supreme Court says our view is straight away, it allowed for everyone to kind of line up with each other because someone decided that they thought they needed to be in front of everybody. So we had to develop this ordinance 3.11. And we came across recently that someone pointed out a portion of this ordinance where it says, in no instance shall the minimum setback established by the straight line method described above result in a value less than 50% or more than 150% of the base number described as followed. So when we're talking about in an R1 district where generally speaking your setback from the seawall would be 40 feet. When you talk about 150%, seems like a big number. But what that number actually is 60 feet. So what this says is that in no instance can you be more than 60 feet away from that seawall. So when we're trying to line houses up so that everybody is in this straight line setback, and we're in an established neighborhood where everybody is at 80 feet back, and I'm just throwing numbers, that everybody is at 80 feet back, and then you're saying in no instance, and somebody's building a new house, can be more than 150 feet, 150% back, that means that he is forced to be no more than 60 feet from the seawall, which puts him 20 feet in front of everybody else. And to me, that's, blocking the sun from his neighbors and everything else. Now, I've got one of these that I've been challenged. It's in the ordinance, and I certainly would like to get this changed. Sooner than later, quicker, as quickly as we can, because, it's been brought to my attention, and, they're following through, that they want to put their house 60 feet from the seawall, which is going to push them well and above, closer to the water than either of their two neighbors. And that really defeats what 311, our straight line setback, was really designed to do. So, that's an issue that I don't know if I've got to go to the board to have you guys look at it, or if it's something that we can discuss and reword that, or try to figure out what we can do to fix this. Because that's one instance, and we're going to get more of these, I'm sure. So far, I guess I've lucked out. I've maybe known it's been there, but haven't not been challenged with it, and now it's being challenged, and I think it's an issue that we need to address. And even in the opposite direction, we've got some properties that are 17 feet from the water, closer to the water, and this, on the other flip of the coin, is saying that you can't be lined up, you've got to sit yourself back farther than the other houses. In those instances, you've got to be at least 20 feet from the water, when maybe everyone else is at 17 feet. May not seem like a lot, but still, we're not doing what this ordinance was designed to do, and that's to keep everybody in line. And if you look at a lot of our coastal properties, you'll see that back in the day, everyone was just neighborly. Everyone just did it.
Yeah.
They did it on their own. You didn't need an ordinance to do that. But today, we have to have these ordinances in place. And now, we're saying, hey, no, but look at the ordinance. The ordinance says that I can't be back by those guys. I have to be no more than 60 feet away. So that's one of the issues. So I don't know where I have to go with this.
I don't think we have to go to the board to have us work on something. And if you see something and bring it to the attention of the planning commission, we should be able to do that. I don't recall ever, Artie occasionally come down here and told us what to do. But other than that, I think it's been a discussion between you and us, and conceivably with the zoning board.
I'm surprised you're going back to the straight line and the 45 setbacks and the structure. I thought we were cruising along pretty good and all that was behind us. I think we ought to just, at some point in time, put together a amendment to that ordinance. And if you're on that property that you described where that person would be so close to the thing that it would block the ordinance, that is prohibited. Karen, is there something you can do about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
If we come up with these calculations so all the neighbors are aligned, but now we have a provision that is conflicting with that because it is, well, then it defeats the purpose of why we had this alignment calculation in the first place, to make sure all the neighbors were, no one was outlying so far out compared to their neighbors. And if that's what this is creating, then it needs to be fixed.
Yeah, maintaining the community response, basically. Yep.
So would it be a language adjustment then that you would propose,
Yeah,
Karen, and
a
then?
language adjustment to keep the intent of those waterfront setbacks.
So maybe we have that at our next meeting, we can look at that, and then we make a recommendation to the board for approval, for the township board approval on a change, so it makes sense.
That would be
I
great.
think it's too big a change to just call it an editorial change.
I think it probably could be done somewhat.
It's essentially fixing
Correction?
a sentence
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
what was it, 12, 15 sentence ordinance?
Yeah, it's more than that, but yeah.
It's not that, yeah.
So
I think that'd be a relatively easy adjustment, let us look at it next time and make a
Okay.
recommendation to the board.
I appreciate that, because, yeah, that's a biggie for me. We just don't want to see that ordinance that really go bad. The other one that I'd like to talk to you on, and I think, we've got some issues with it, is 20.25, our accessory dwelling units. And I know Karen's got some more to speak on that. But what I'm looking for myself is an interpretation. So when an accessory dwelling unit, typically when I get one of these coming before me in the building department, my first reaction is going to be, okay, we have to go to the ZBA. It's because we got to get a height adjustment. We've got to get a second floor on this building in order to then go to the Planning Commission to get an approval to have an ADU above a garage, if that's what it is, if it's an apartment. But my question to you is an interpretation question. Because under 20.25, it speaks about that the apartments above a garage shall not exceed 20 square foot. So in the language of the ADU, you've already set a height limitation that you can be 20-foot mean height on an ADU. And we're already speaking about it being a habitable space. So my question is, if someone comes to me, which I have a plan, it hasn't been submitted yet, but if they come to me with an ADU that hasn't been built yet, and they have a house and a garage with a proposed ADU above, do we need to go to the ZBA for that? Or is that something that, because the Planning Commission, it does have to come before the Planning Commission to be approved for an ADU, that's for sure. But does it have to go first to the ZBA to get a height that's already allows for a 20-foot mean height from the Planning Commission? It's already an ADU is being approved as a habitable space, an apartment, by the Planning Commission. Do I have to have them go to the ZBA first, or is simply because it's being proposed as an ADU, as a new build, to just come before the Planning Commission for an approval for an ADU?
I think if it's a new build, it's being brought, it's being built as that structure. I think the intent to go to ZBA would be if it were an existing structure that they were modifying to turn into an accessory dwelling unit. I don't think that would be, that is in place for a new build. I think it's for a building modification. So I wouldn't see why they would need to go to ZBA prior to, because they're not changing anything, they're following the ordinance as written.
That's the answer I'm looking for.
I mean, that's my interpretation of what.
If that's what, I mean, that's the answer I'm looking for. If that's what the board feels, and that's the interpretation, that's why I'm here for interpretation. Because that's the way I would read it. If you're allowing for a 20-foot mean height and you're allowing it to be occupied, your simple approval to be an ADU is all that we need, and we don't need to start off at the ZBA level to get it to that point, when it's a brand-new build.
Right.
Yeah, as a new.
I think property size should be included in that.
Well, of course it
Gotta have
is.
certain-
That's included.
Lot
in-
coverages, all that is,
Okay.
absolutely, Mark, absolutely. That's always part of this equation.
So that's just the way
I kind of interpret
Read
it
that.
the same way. If there's a mean height that's already in there, that's where it's stated there. It's not going to the zoning board of appeals, so.
Right?
Margie, what do you think, it being on a ZBA, what's your feeling on
I
that
agree with you.
interpretation?
Yeah.
Sound right? I think so.
So the interpretation is if it's a brand-new build, they just need to come before the planning commission for approval
Yeah.
for an ADU. Thank you.
Now,
That's
on
all
a
I have.
boathouse, I mean, you can have a living space, but you can't live up there. One person from the owner needs to occupy that, but without any restroom facilities.
Well, that's part of the planning commission approval. And in this particular case, yes, the owner will live
Right.
it's a brand-new house, a brand-new ADU. It's going to be mom-in-law that's going to live in the ADU. But yes, that's a number one on the list for an ADU, is that it has to be homesteaded, and either the owner lives in either the main dwelling or the ADU. That's number one on the list. And, that would be required for you guys to approve it anyways. But, yep. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
So with that being done, now unfinished business, which there is none. And then item 8 is master plan review. Karen?
So tonight, we're reviewing the last section of your latest adopted master plan. And this is the implementation section, so it makes recommendations of, this is what we determined in the master plan, and this is kind of our guide of how the master plan suggests that the planning commission or other township administration move forward with the master plan to implement some of the goals and objectives of the master plan. Some of them include, changing your zoning ordinance. Others are kind of like advocacy items where you're educating the community or residents or business owners, property owners. Then you have other action items that may involve research, study, and further evaluation by staff and our other boards and commissions. All these items on here are part of your 20-year vision, and they've outlined what they think, who's the lead body, potential funding sources, potential supporting partners. And, this is usually a section where if you're hoping that maybe if you guys had a funding opportunity, you could fund some kind of goal through this, that's usually where these things are listed. I took a look at all these, you have stuff referring to housing, outdoor resilient lifestyle, transportation, economy, and I think all of them are still relevant. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
Do we know if there was anything on there that was accomplished the last time around that could be removed, or,
To be honest, no. I've only been your planner
Yeah.
alone for a short time.
So does it make sense just to leave it then?
It does because I would say, a lot of times these are kind of broad.
Yeah.
And so maybe you completed like 90% of something, but maybe you're still hoping to finish the last leg of something. It's good to still keep it in there in case, again, like I said, a grant opportunity came up to either further enhance that goal or strategy or whatever. I would say, it's nice to internally be able to check off something and say, hey, we did this thing. But you guys would know better than me at this point what things may have been accomplished, because some of these things aren't directly just for planning commission,
Right.
it's for other groups and boards as well.
That's why I don't know if it would make sense for the board to look at. I don't know if
Yeah.
it makes sense to go through that process, just to remove 5 things from the list. Because I know that 90% of this hadn't been done, but
Yeah.
if it just
I
makes
think
sense
it's
to-
good internally to check it off, but I don't think it's enough to warrant because all we would do if we were to update this part, those items would be gone.
Right.
And any supplement doesn't, typically the master plan doesn't call out accomplishments from the previous.
And what metrics would we use to decide whether it was accomplished or not?
Yeah.
Mark and I certainly were here when we started that, right? So we know how long the master plan has been in effect.
I think it makes sense just to leave it in there then,
Yeah.
without any kind of a modification to it.
Is there any reason why we haven't implemented any of these changes?
I mean, some of them aren't planning commission, some of them are
Yeah.
other boards.
Right.
The ones that are planning commission, I mean, I guess you were quietly doing it. I mean, right now, we just talked about all these zoning ordinance amendments that you guys want to look at. You guys want to figure out how to eliminate certain occurring problems happening or certain conflicts. You know, one of the action strategies is reviewing the zoning ordinance and consider updating design standards to ensure future development meets expected area standards. I think you guys do that all the time on a regular basis with any updates you guys accomplish, so.
How do we get funding to the staff when they're supposed to market Pearl Beach and Sans Souci? I mean, so that some of these things are well to be on the list, but unless we fund the effort, how is it going to ever be completed?
Well, that's where it's good to have these things in your plan, because like I said, if a grant opportunity comes up,
Yeah.
then you can, because a lot of times the grant opportunity will say, what documentation do you have that you have wanted to do this thing?
Yes.
And you can refer to your master plan saying, this has been a part of our master plan since, 2021.
No, I
You know,
I agree
so,
totally.
yeah, that gets
The
your
master
foot in
plan
the
has
door
to
for a
be
lot of things.
Of some
Yeah.
guidance when you're
Yeah.
trying to do that.
Yeah.
Now, my question to you, Karen, would be, is there anything that, I mean, this is kind of your opinion, but it's what we have you for. Is there anything that would be, that we could add that would help maybe with grant situation, like pursuing grants as a township that could be added to this to help us to maybe get some of the funding that's there?
That's really up
Or
to,
anything that sticks out to you that is like,
No,
yeah, a lot
I
of
mean, I
townships
think you-
have this because that, like, there's grant opportunities out there for this, and so if this is in their master plan that, they can go for it.
I think your plan covers a lot of stuff. It's really robust. I personally don't feel that there's really much more we could add to it to make it, a little more shinier. I think the last plan you had done, it was quite extensive and very thorough. So I don't think there'd be any addition that would have an improvement effect, let's just say that. I personally would recommend, we've completed the master plan review, which you're required to do every 5 years. I don't know if you want to wait for the other planning commission members, but I'd say between this meeting and next meeting, take some time and decide what you'd like to do. I personally would recommend just readopting your current plan. Data has changed, sure, but at the end, the goals and objectives and the vision for the township has not changed significantly, I don't think. So I would recommend readopting, because I don't know what adding any more supplement or updated data would really do to pursue any other possible grant funding opportunities or address some significant change that's happened between then and now.
Because it certainly addresses a lot of,
Yeah.
everything's touched on,
that's-
for sure.
It was a big ordeal when we went through it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
can see
lot.
that.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
So for the next meeting, would you recommend that we have on our agenda to readopt the master plan or discussion?
I would
and
recommend
possible-
discussing what the board would like to do.
Okay.
If you choose to readopt it, then we should schedule a public hearing for that readoption. You have to put a public notice, explain to community, this is what, we've reviewed our plan, we are not taking any action, we're not drafting anything new. So the public's aware and they can come share their comments before you guys make any adoption. If you guys do decide to make add any kind of supplement, that can be discussed as well. But like I'd say, as a planner who looks at a lot of community plans, this is very recent, very robust, and I think extremely relevant still, so.
Is there any kind of time frame we're under to do that, or?
No, you were required to, you're just required to review it every 5 years and take an action on it. Some communities, it takes them a really long time to review their plan, but I think you guys were tasked with this, in March of this year? We've completed it. It's still the same year, so I think as long as you guys take action in the next couple months, and if that action is, we want to add something to it, there is time still allowed for that. But then we put a notice out to the community saying we are drafting something for our master plan.
And it'll go up to the county again, too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should be able to make a decision once next month. So, it's, good. So, planning consultant report. Sorry.
You waited for her to sit down, I saw what you did.
The only other thing I wanted to bring up is when Gary was talking about the ADU section, specifically for the apartments. You guys kind of have a lot of layers of language of how big these apartments can be. They have to be at least 420 square feet for the apartment. There's also language saying, it can't exceed 30% of the size can't exceed 30% of the principal structure plus the accessory building combined. Oh, but by the way, you also can't exceed 650 square feet. So it's like, okay, well, you're really limited to being between 420 and 650. Do we want to have this extra language about the 30%? Or, how do you want to handle that? I understand we want to keep these apartments relatively small. If you want something bigger as an accessory dwelling, you can have the standalone cottage, which can be up to, I think, 1,200 square feet. But it's just, I think that's language that could just be simplified so it's clear to applicants what they can and cannot do. Because when they start reading, it's got to be 420, it can be up to 30. And then suddenly they get down farther and they realize, I'm actually capped at 650.
So a minimum and a maximum square footage and be done.
Yeah, I'd suggest that.
That makes sense.
So that's what I'd suggest. I can bring you the language next
I was gonna say, can
meeting,
you-
and then you guys can decide what you'd like to do, but
Yeah.
it has come up, so.
ZBA representative report?
Okay, so we've had a couple meetings, JZBA 2025-010, the application for 9070 Stone Road. This homeowner had 299.4 square feet he took of two parcels. So he took 50 foot and added it to his other parcel. He came in for a 6-inch variance. So to make two parcels rather than one 200 feet and the other one, he added 50 feet to the other one. So we made one 150 and one 149.6. So we did approve that. Then there was an application for Wapu Island, Wapu Road on Russell Island. That was regarding, we allowed a shed on the property because it was an accessory building. They didn't have any accessory buildings for their equipment to maintain the island. So the lawnmowers and everything just kind of sat out. So we allowed them to add an accessory building on there too so that they can put all their equipment inside the building. And then Colony Drive came in front of us for another mean height, which was approved. That application was 8463 Colony Drive, which we approved another mean height. All the other structures next to him were almost exactly the same height of what he was asking for,
What's the height that you have in there?
27.6.
So we're at 15 and they wanted 27.6.
Yeah, that was an unusual one. That was actually an unusual one. They usually don't come in for us for that.
I mean, that's almost double. Like,
Right.
if you think, right?
That
like-
was actually,
You're not asking
the
for a
same
couple.
exact ones were next.
Yeah, oh yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm not doubting that at all. I'm just saying, when we talk about.
Actually, they were taller
Making
than those.
a-
Yeah.
From a 15 to a
And
17.
honestly, in my opinion, Colony Road should have its own.
They really
ordinance.
should, because it's become,
It is, that
Its own.
section should have its own ordinance,
not about a 27-foot boathouse.
yeah. I believe that one was,
Weird.
is that one on second floor? I can't remember that, exactly the details, I didn't write all the details on here. And then the 1870 South Channel. This one came, and we tabled it. It was regarding the mean height and the sides of the boathouse, which is, they built 6 foot, they were approved. What I'm going to give you is what happened. They were approved to build, and they went before Eagle, and they were approved, and then they came before the building department, and they got approved, and they built it to what they expected. And the neighbor was complaining, saying that can't be. And then when Gary went back, he realized that a mistake had been made. And so they stopped in a building, which they were 99% done. And unfortunately, it wasn't just an easy fix. So we tabled it, and we came back and had a special meeting on November 6th, I believe it was. And in order to fix it, it would have had to have been dismantled. It wasn't an easy fix. The supports of the roof were along the entire, right, because it kind of was like a shed roof. So it was along, the support was underneath the 6-foot shed part, that comes down, like protect. So it wasn't just as easy as bringing it up 3 feet to meet the 3-foot building requirement. So it was actually dismantling the actual boathouse that was there. So we approved reluctantly for to allow the 6-foot sides to remain, because it wasn't just shortening those sides. It was an actual support that was holding up the roof of this gigantic boathouse. And so that one did get approved on the second meeting on the 6th.
What was missed on that?
The mean height and the 6-foot
17 and a half.
mean height.
Okay. Was it
And-
missed, or they built?
No, it was missed.
Okay.
I made a mistake.
Okay, and I'm not trying to point finger. I was just wondering if it was, if they just.
And it was the
Yeah, what went wrong?
6-foot
They
side
didn't just build it.
and the 6-foot sides. It's supposed to be 3.
Okay.
Not an easy solution.
It was not easy at all. It was very, very difficult.
All you have to do is read the minutes that I got mailed.
Right. It was very, very difficult. Some, very, very struggled. It was like 50-50 on.
And he didn't create that problem himself.
No, it was not
That's
self-created.
why, basically, you can easily give him the variance.
Right.
Yep.
It was not self-created. It was
No,
very
no.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
That's right.
They were, yeah. That's it.
Okay. Board representative report.
You all probably know that Lance Surdy is retiring April the 1st, and he's being replaced by a qualified individual by the name of Darren Saunders. And I want to thank Gary and Karen for bringing forth a lot of issues that we can stop and debate on and have something done now before it goes out of hand and we have a big blowout at some point in time. So I want to thank you very much for being proactive on that. Thank you.
Chairperson's report. I talked to Kathy on Monday, and she had nothing that she wanted to report on. Christine Holcomb, herself, Kathy Schweikart, and myself were all reappointed. I think that's it for the chairperson's report. So planning commission members' comments. Any?
I've got nothing.
Nothing? Public comments. So the rules for the public comment and public hearing. Public comment rules, all comments, you've been here before, so 3 minutes.
Mark Lay, 1765. First, in terms of 6B, I apologize for interrupting. I would say the big thing to do is rename what practical difficulty is. This was a fact that it was his boat, it said it in the application, the lawyer admitted it was his boat, so to sit there and say it wasn't is ridiculous. Second of all, there was a one in the zoning board earlier this year where people moved into Clay Township and they had a lot of storage. That was their excuse. With all due respect, I don't feel sorry for people with $500,000 boats, jacked up pickup trucks that can't fit in the garages, or a lot of storage. Zoning, you're supposed to do it if they show practical difficulty. If they have a lot of possessions, that doesn't show practical difficulty. In terms of, so what you can do is maybe retrain what practical difficulty is. In terms of what Gary was saying in terms of mistake, I got tired of hearing Gary made a mistake. I used to be an engineer. I had suppliers all the time try to sneak stuff past me. This builder, he's been in here for half a century. Are any of you going to sit there and tell me he didn't know what the zoning ordinances were on boathouses? Come on now. You know, and he only changed 2 ordinances which were height. Both of those was because of the boat, which in the lawyer's own paperwork says because he's got one of those giant navigation systems in. So what I would recommend to avoid this again is when the builder submits one, instead of playing that game where I'm going to try to sneak it through because obviously Gary's busy, how about you put a good faith pledge underneath the application? That way, if it goes to the legal system, you can sit there and go, okay, yeah, half of it's Gary's fault, but half of it is the builder who willingly knew that he was violating the ordinance. Like I said, as a former engineer, I had this happen to me all the time. So I would recommend a good faith pledge under the applicant's signature. That way you share responsibility, because it's ridiculous to blame one man for someone else's wanting for a bigger boat. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Anybody else? No one else, so. Adjournment.
So moved. Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.